Hi, welcome. Wisdom for Menopause and Beyond.
Where we talk about menopause, we talk about wisdom, and
Yes.
we talk about really
Midlife and
midlife
beyond.
things that women go through experience, and we're becoming a collective so that we can all share that information.
Exactly.
And,
Yes.
and benefit from the wisdom that we get
Of the ages, yes.
at menopause.
Exactly.
So
And beyond. Well, that's right, because the last one we had, we were kind of getting a bit a bit down about, those kind of negative tropes around, this time of life for women. And we just thought maybe we should do the opposite and kind of say why we actually quite like this time of life. And, and in our kind of the workshops that we do, we used to call this wake up and smell the coffee.
Wake up and smell the coffee.
Wake up and smell the coffee.
Just to reiterate, a lot of people have a lot of negative attitudes, which we kind of get fed over time.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just sort of say it isn't true. What is good then? What do you love about it?
Yeah, I mean, it is that kind of thing. What I found, and I guess it's like looking at my 40s and above, and what have I really enjoyed about this? I almost feel like I've come into myself.
Tell me more.
I've come into myself, and I kind of think I got to try things that I just didn't do for whatever reason. Maybe I was doing career, maybe I was doing children, maybe I was doing all those kind of things.
It's just that, because I think there's I think it's not that it's untrue, but there's an awful lot of I was busy with and I was doing that and I didn't have the chance. But I actually would go a bit further, and I tend to think what I did at 20, I didn't want to do necessarily at 40. It wasn't that, oh, I didn't have the money, or I didn't have the space, or I didn't have the thing. It was like, and then at 50, I kind of didn't necessarily want to do the things I did at 30. And it doesn't invalidate one on the other.
No.
It's almost like when you buy a 4-year-old some toys and you buy them, you say, you loved it at 4 so much, now you're 13, I bought you another one. And they went,
it's not really about, it doesn't feel like that. What it feels to me like, I know what you mean about, I suppose there is a route that we take. We kind of have childhood, then we go into puberty, and then we kind of develop relationships or not, and then we develop work and things like that. And that seems to be where that's the way that people kind of do it, in a way, in those kind of years. And it's not that you can't do other things on the side. Did I just kind of do working? No, I went traveling. I did various, I actually didn't really go traveling, but I went on holiday, various other things. But what I kind of feel since I was 40 is it's almost like it's come back to me thinking about myself first, rather than other people, or rather than what other people were doing or other people were expecting. When I went to university, it was all fine, it was all great, it all worked really well. But almost kind of in my 40s, I feel like I was trying different things, maybe things that, like you say, I wouldn't have tried. I could have tried them when I was 20.
I think,
but I actually felt that, I've come to that point where I'm willing to do this, and this is a new thing, is an unusual thing.
I still, perhaps I had a slightly less conventional, like I didn't stay at school, I didn't go to university, I didn't have kids when I was young, and I didn't get them offhand. So all of the normal excuses, and I don't mean they're excuses, but all of those normal things. So in my 20s, I was away every weekend, traveling, doing different things. I went away for a year and I was 30, all sorts of things. And it's almost like it was the best time to do them. So I think there's an element of, yes, now I've got some space, or now I've paid off a mortgage and all that. That's the societal side of it.
Yeah.
But the other side is, I genuinely think there's a maturation, there's an accumulation of self-knowledge, of self-confidence, of sort of exploring. There's a change that happens to you when life becomes more finite. I always say when you're 20, you've got about 150 years to live.
So you don't have to do it then.
No, and when you're 30, you've got about 100 years left.
Oh, right. Okay.
And when you're 40, you've got, and then suddenly you get to sort of 65, 70, and you think, actually,
I could do it now.
It's almost like your focus point gets more,
Maybe.
What do I really want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of what do I really want to do? And I kind of think, I also feel like as I got into my late 30s and 40s, I became more confident to do things.
But
you know, I kind of felt like, all right, I'm willing to do these things. So I went traveling on my own. I went traveling a lot, and I did a variety of different things, and I would say I probably became adventurous then. Well, I don't think I was an adventurous child.
No, but I think
teenager, but I definitely became more since
I think you grow up at about 35 to 40.
Maybe.
And it's very interesting when you look at, when you do the psychology of memory, and I've seen it like in a group of 2,000-3,000 people, and you say, think of your, don't look for it, but just think of your happiest memory. And it's not on, because that might be true, but it isn't often. But it's like, what is it? And it's between, on the 2,000 people, between 25 and 30.
Okay.
And then when you look at exciting things, so these things happen at certain ages.
Yeah.
And the brain changes and matures throughout time. And actually, the most poignant memories happen at a particular age, and the most sensational memories happen at a particular age. So we very little put back on the body. We always think, oh, it's because I didn't have enough money or whatever it was, which is sometimes true. And I'm not knocking that. That's sort of another area over there. But there's a maturation that happens with the brain. Things change, areas grow. So just going back a little bit, if you don't learn a language by a certain age, you will always speak it with an accent, because your language development area of the brain closes down, and you have to use a different way of creating language.
Okay.
So you create language when you're young, then that closes down. If you don't learn some element of walking or talking, you're unlikely to learn them. So certain areas of the brain grow are very, very big. And we know in puberty that teenagers have an amazingly different brain than they have 10-15 years later.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So I wonder how much of this excitement about finding ourselves is also to do with our midlife, which coincides with a massive change for women of their hormones, transition, which makes it, at the beginning, a really exciting time of life.
Yeah,
because the hormones are releasing, you've got to be responsible and good and pay off everything.
Yeah.
And your brain is going, I'm now free to grow and investigate and do lots of things.
Yeah.
But so I think it's an exciting time to explore.
Yeah. And I kind of think that I always say, you know, started belly dancing in my 40s, started putting on art exhibitions in my 50s,
you see?
Started a PhD in my 60s.
You might say, I did that because I got time. And I would say you also did it not just because there was the opportunity. You did it because physiologically, this is a time of fun and freedom growing. As long as we don't medicate it away.
Yes. We do that another day. But I mean, I do kind of think that this, I mean, and that's what got me interested in that whole thing about creativity at this time, because it did feel like there is this growth of creativity at this time. It's definitely been true for me, and I've seen it in other women that I've kind of worked with, that people suddenly realize, oh, do you know what, actually I want to go and do decoupage. You know, not for me, but it's like, oh, I'm going to do that because I'm quite interested in, you know, the fine work and the this that and the other, and making something visual. Oh, actually I want to go back and I want to learn how to, you know, I'm going to go on a cooking course and cook seafood or whatever it is. But you know, it's actually, oh, what new skills would I like to actually acquire here?
So I think it's too broad for it to be just, oh, I found that I had the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's a really creative space for our mind and bodies if we enable it or encourage it. So instead of just going, oh, well, like, you're probably a bit lonely now you're older, try a bit of decoupage, see if it takes the edge off. Whereas actually I think there's a lot of creativity. So which is such a broad thing. It can be, as you say, from decoupage to decorating to learning a new language to going out and joining it. Lots of things.
And it's interesting when you kind of say, you know, kind of think of your happiest memories and things like that. My happiest memories are definitely not 25 to 35. They're definitely late 30s and beyond. You know,
you're a late developer.
I'm obviously definitely took a while, you know, because I just remember it was like the time I remember being on a beach in Heron Island in, you know, on the Barrier Reef, you know, in Australia, and I'd created this wherewithal to go there, you know, as a research trip, and then I treated myself to go to this amazing thing. And I just remember being on this place and walking along the beach, and in the shallows was like as though there'd been a load of tea towels thrown there, were a lot of rays with their little eyes looking at me and things like that. So I kind of feel about that. I'm thinking those things are big. I never had those in my 20s. But you know,
interestingly, whenever you ask people, they would go, "This is my most poignant memory." Oh, because I just had children, so that's why. This is my most poignant memory because, but actually it all fell within that range. And yet the experience, I said, well, that's because I had no kids, no mortgage, just a rucksack, felt really free. And another one said, oh, that's because I just won £1 million and I had all this money and I had all these possessions. And you think everyone's reason, so they all chalked it to a reason, whereas actually it was in a growth span. I was in a development span. So whilst we've always got nurture nature, I will never be persuaded that you're only ever one. But it's always this balance between the two. So you've got an area where it closes that down. But what you didn't say, oh, it was when I was 61. Do you know what I mean? It's still within that little range of whatever. So
I'm still making those.
But
still making those, you know.
I think we just come into this beautiful, creative, self-confident space that people will say, oh, I'm confident because I didn't have children. I'm confident because I did have children. I'm confident because I got 58 grandchildren. I'm confident because I've learned how to use a computer. You know, they'll come up with many different things, but actually you have an ability for growth and confidence that you can take forward.
Yes, and I think this is something which we don't really talk about.
No.
And I think it's some of those things, maybe, all right, let's go back to that, you know, another hormonal thing, you know, having children. It's like when you're pregnant or when you're wanting children, when you're kind of getting pregnant, you're doing all that kind of thing. And then you get pregnant and you think about what it's going to be like when this small being,
bundle of joy,
lovely, but people will only talk about the negative things. Well, you're never going to sleep, you know, you're never going to have sex again, you know, all your bits kind of fall to pieces, you know, you're going to be at its beck and call for forever,
and
really.
That's true.
And that's true. So people only talk about those things beforehand, whereas when you have the baby, then you get to experience that, hopefully the love that you have for that child and those positive experiences as you are with them growing up. But it's almost like, you know, that kind of similar thing that we human beings, and maybe it's the British as well, we talk about negative things, and then you don't realize that actually there are a whole lot of positive things to do with whatever it is that you're thinking about.
It's fear-based.
True.
It's fear-based.
Well, that's our kind of in the jungle, in the cave. Fear was something which kept you alive, wasn't it?
We have a very odd sort of thing that if we look at the worst, it can only be better than that. And actually that's not the case. It's probably not allowed to that. But I think it is, if we can have no expectations or none. So we're very fear-based, and there's a lot of people that are willing to jump on the fear, which is why we get the fear. But that we definitely have change, and change is not comfortable for a lot of people. We've talked about sort of embracing the change,
out of your comfort zone,
but actually to some extent the change will happen regardless. You can put as much face cream on you as you like, but it's
you're never going to look 17, honey. I'm sorry.
But so this change that physiologically happens that has a side effect of really exciting creativity is going to happen. So let's experience it rather than plan it. It's too much. I'm going to be whatever it is when I get creative. Well, why don't we get creative and see where that goes?
It's a bit like when I'm old, I'll wear purple, and I'm and that's the kind of thing of, and people, oh, what a great poem that is, and how positive it is, looking at, old age and things like that. And you're kind of going, yeah, maybe. But actually, it's that thing of, maybe we do come back into more of a day-to-day process rather than and we've had those conversations before about planning ahead and, doing things spontaneity, planning ahead, all those things. But it is that thing of, let's look at each day.
Yeah.
What's great about today? What am I going to do today?
Oh, God, I've got to bloody wear purple. I've got to be outrageous in my hat and my again.
I'm going to do that.
Oh, I don't want to be outrageous today.
I'm just going to read a book all day and stay in by the fire.
But it is exploring how your crazy brain unwinds it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really exciting time.
It is an exciting time. And, there's a lot of fun to be had. So what we're saying is, wake up and smell the coffee. Even if you don't, I don't like coffee, but wake up and smell the coffee. We'll get you there.